rupasya paresham cha parasyate Svarupam yadhe to kushalam janaha. Mataji? Kalasyeshvara rupasya paresham cha parasyate yadhe to kushalam janaha. What word? Kalasya, of time. Ishvara rupasya, a representation of the Lord. Paresham, of all others. Cha, and Parasya, the chief. Te, of you. Swarupam, the nature. Bata, O, kurvanti, perform. Yat hetuhu, by whose influence. Kushalam, pious activities. Janaha, people in general. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. Please repeat. Please also describe the eternal time, which is a representation people in general engage in the performance. However ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. The body is born at a certain time, and immediately the influence of time acts upon it. From the date of the birth of the body, the influence of death is also acting. The advancement of the influence of time body. If a man is 30 or 50 years old, then the influence of time has already devoured 30 or 50 years of the duration of his life. Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider their age and circumstances, concern themselves with the influence of time, and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or an animal species. Generally, people are attached to sense enjoyment and so aspire for life on heavenly planets. They cannot get relief from the planet Brahmaloka, because the influence of time is present everywhere within this material world. In the spiritual world, however, the time factor has no influence. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjashalakaya Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shuntadesh वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। कालस्येश्वर रूपस्य परेषां च परस्यते स्वरूपं बत कुर्वन्ति यद्धेतो कुशलं जनाः. Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence we see that actually there is no time, whether for the devotees or for the materialists. Isn't it? So before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of His Grace Ramrai Prabhu and all the assembled Vaishnavas to speak in line with what Sri Prabhupada has spoken. This world, everyone wants to save time because for the materialistic people, time is money. But for the devotees, time is more than money. Time is Krishna, isn't it? Time is even more important for a devotee. We find even in history also there have been great rulers who have come and gone to this planet, but the land has remained. In the Indian subcontinent itself, you will find there were different empires: the Maratha Empire, the Mughal dynasty, the Chandragupta Mauryan, his dynasty. So many dynasties have come and gone, but land has still remained, isn't it? So in the face of time, everyone is simply a tiny tot, and so are our own activities if they're not connected to Krishna. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, you'll find here. Everyone is aware of the eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. Yes, this is the nature of time that it actually destroys everything that which is material. It degrades. So, so if some people say, Prabhu, I don't have time to attend Bhāgavatam, that doesn't apply here. Because anything which is spiritual, connected to Krishna, then it is always saved. Anything which is connected to material or matter, which is disconnected from the planet of Brahma, from in this material world, everything is a function of time. Everything is f of t. Some people live longer. Some living entities, there are certain bugs. They are born at night, they grow, they get married, they produce offsprings, they become old and die by morning. Your sleep, your 6 hours of sleep covers the entire lifetime, isn't it? And there are living entities like human beings. For our, in our experience, we live around 100 years. But in terms of the demigods, our 6 months is just their 12 hours. So our 1 year is the entire 24 hours, 1 day for the demigods. Similarly, you will find when you go up to Brahma lives. So therefore, the effect of time, you will find Bhishma in the first canto, in the 9th chapter, Bhishma tells the Pandavas, he addresses the Pandavas saying, all the suffering all of you had to go through, though you were actually Dharma Parayan, the worshippers of Dharma, was just because of the effect of time. And later he says, this time, whose will and wish cannot be understood, must be Krishna. Like that he says. I'll just show it to you. First canto, chapter 9. So this is the time when Bhishma is actually lying down on his arrow bed. So just after the war, Krishna tells all the Pandavas, because Bhishma actually was very favorable to the Pandavas, because he knew they were always followers of Krishna. Vipra Dharma Achyuta Ashraya, like that it said. Vipra Dharma Achyuta Ashraya means they were always taking shelter of the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas. They were always the followers of Dharma as mentioned in the scriptures, and they would always worship the Supreme Lord, Lord Achyuta or Krishna. And because of this, they were always protected. But at the same time, Bhishma, though he was favorable to them, he could not withstand sufferings the Pandavas went. So towards the end of the war, as the war concluded, Krishna advises, feels that because of him, it was all his fault. Then Krishna gives advice. Krishna tells Yudhishthir, actually it is not your fault. Still Yudhishthir is not convinced. And then he goes to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva also says how it is not Yudhishthir's fault, it was bound to happen. Because adharma has to be defeated. And still Yudhishthir is not, he is not convinced. And that is the time Yudhishthir is taken to Bhishma. So, of course, this is all Lord's play, divine play, where the Supreme Lord wants to show, he wants to give credit to Bhishma as the most knowledgeable, to Bhishma as a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. At that time, when they are supposed to meet Bhishma, Krishna tells all the Pandavas, don't go just like that to Bhishma. Wear mukut, wear kundal, wear the ornaments. Go as kings, because this will be very pleasing to Bhishma. Because Bhishma, throughout his life, he wanted to see Pandavas as the kings. And as they all dress up like kings and they proceed towards Bhishma, Bhishma becomes very delighted to see the Pandavas. And Krishna besides, this is the first verse Bhishma says. Can you repeat? Aho kashtam aho nyayam yadyuyam dharma nachutashraya. Alas, how much of miseries, how much difficulties, and how much injustice you Pandavas had to endure. Yadyuyam dharma nandanaha. That means even though you were the sons of Dharma, you were followers of Dharma, you never credited Dharma. But still you had to undergo so much of misery. Jivitu na arhata klishtam means you never deserved this much misery. And still, though you underwent so much misery, you were saved because of Vipra Dharma Chutashraya. So you know this, there's a famous saying, uh, those who protect Dharma, Dharma protects them. Dharma rakshati rakshitaha. That means the Pandavas protected Dharma, isn't it? They always upheld the Brahmanical principles. They always upheld the worship of the Supreme Lord. And that's what protected them in all kinds of miseries. Like that Bhishma says here. Yeah. Anyone has mic to read? Can get mic. Bhishma Dev said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God and religion." Why did all this happen? Why did the war happen then? पृथा बाल प्रजावधूः युष्मत्कृते बहून् क्लेशान् कवते मुहुः. Lord Kunti is current upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. So he's saying how much all of you had to suffer. Yeah. Okay, now Bhishma comes to the point. Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam chayada priyam sapalo yadvashe loko vayoriva ghana vali. There's no mic? Both the mics battery is gone. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time. And Prabhupada gives a very nice purport to this. Under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. See Prabhupada's purport. There is control by time all over the space within the universe, as there is control by time all over the planets. All the big gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are being carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable kala, or time, controls even the action of the air and other elements. Everything is therefore controlled by the supreme kala, forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. And this is what Bhishma wanted to say. Thus, Yudhishthir should not be sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Yeah. Then later on, towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, one should not be disturbed by the tricks of the eternal time. Anyone knows what are the tricks of the eternal time? Prabhupada is saying, don't be disturbed by the tricks of the eternal time. What do you understand by tricks? Yeah. Okay, thank you. He's saying it's material happiness is like a mirage which we can never achieve, but we get bound in this world. Anything else? What do you consider as the trick of the eternal time? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So Ryan Pro is saying that in few the materialistic plan makers make plans in the material world, which doesn't necessarily have to be followed. Just reduce the volume; it's too high. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah.
It is just caused due to mind, and
Correct. Yeah.
it is just the expression of mind, and it may be illusion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, actually, you'll find the trick of the time is when we are put in a happy situation, in a joyous occasion, we become proud and then we become comfortable in the material world. Similarly, when we are put in distressful situation, one actually becomes too depressed, isn't it? And therefore, he cannot actually take good, proper actions in that situation. That means Jichadvesha Samuttena Dvandva Mohena Bharata. Krishna tells Arjuna in 7th chapter. Krishna tells in this world, as soon as you're born, you're put into illusion. And what is that illusion? When people think, I have a lot of time, that is illusion. Because time is limited, though it is eternal. Time is limited means the manifestations are limited. That means that for now we have this body, but this body can be taken away from us and another body will be given. But time doesn't stop there, time goes on, isn't it? So, therefore, we say that time is limited. So, when time is limited, a materialistic man feels this limited time I have to use for my sense gratificatory actions, isn't it? Why? Because his mind is in different way, and therefore he says no time. Actually, in Prabhupada, I think during Prabhupada times there was this newspaper article, and they had a small cartoon. There, the old man is coolly sitting in an easy chair and reading a newspaper, and his wife is telling him, "Chant, chant, chant," and the lady is saying, and the man is saying, "Can't, can't, can't." You know, why the materialistic person he doesn't get find any time to chant Hare Krishna. He doesn't get time to read Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't get time to come to the temple, and because of which they make up different philosophies. They say God is everywhere. Why should I go to temple? Then Prabhupada said, if God is everywhere, you fool, God is also in the deity. God is the deity. He's, so come to temple. So like this, a materialistic man, he uselessly spends all his time in activities whose results are destroyed by time. Whereas a spiritualist, he invests time in spiritual life, in Krishna. That means for person who has not controlled his mind, for him to control time is very difficult. For him, time has become Kala Sarpa. If someone says, Prabhu, today is my birthday, I'm 21 years old, then the Kala Sarpa has eaten 21% of you. Of course, assuming you live 100 years. Someone says, I'm 51 years old, then the Kala Sarpa has eaten 51% of you. Only sometimes at the age of 70 or 80, Kalasapa is almost, only our head is remaining. Isn't it? Only head is out of the mouth of the Kalasarpa, the python of time. So in this way, the time is actually going behind everyone and swallowing up, devouring everyone and his activities. Though the materialistic scientists are very proud of their inventions by their discoveries, it's of no use. Like one scientist went to Sri Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, look at my PhD thesis on grass. Prabhupada laughed at him and said, it would have been better if you would have done some research work on the one who made grass, isn't it? So thick PhD thesis and just on grass, different types of grass, different colors of grass, different fragrances of grass. What is the use? So the materialistic people will not understand, and therefore they don't have time. Whereas for a spiritualist, they don't get time because they're too busy serving Krishna. So, in the purport now it is being said, even the great control of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time despite being a true follower of religious principles. That means even the great controller, Brahma, is under time factor. So there are different ways by which we actually waste time, even as devotees. For example, when we try to control situations which are out of our control, then we waste time, even as devotees. Like once Her Grace Devaki Mataji was giving a seminar on false ego, and she was saying sometimes a lot of time gets wasted in trying to please the false ego. That means, I mean, she gave an example, was an event in her life. Once she was charged £1,000. She lives somewhere in Europe, I think Germany, Austria. She was charged €1,000 for no good reason, and she understood the case. She understood if she has to fight this case, dispute this case, then she has to hire a lawyer, spend so much of time in court hearings, and it would take lot of time in her life. And she said by this time, she was brahmachari for some time, and she wanted to actually become very much more serious and invest all her time in Krishna. So she said she rather chose to pay off the £1,000, even though it was for no good reason. Why? Because then she would save time to invest in Krishna, isn't it? Sometimes there is a devotee who, sometimes speak harshly to us, and even in the chanting time, we are just thinking, why did this devotee act like this? Sometimes, someone else is given an opportunity which we are looking for. Then in chanting time, that's what goes in the mind. So, therefore, a person who is serious in Krishna consciousness, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, Ekeha Kurunandana. For such a person, the goal becomes very clear and he is not distracted by any other things. Tassaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyadaha tallabhyate dukkavadanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. In this, Narada is telling to Vyasadeva in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. He says those who are Kovida, intelligent people never endeavor for those things which are bound to be destroyed, which are bound to be lost. So therefore, they don't try to obtain anything of this material world, because from Brahma to the ant, all the 14 planetary systems, everything is part of this material world is bound to get destroyed. And Krishna reveals this. So the five subject matters one studies in the Bhagavad Gita. What are they? Jiva, Ishvara, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala, time. So time factor is so important that this has become one of the primary subject matters in Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna tells Arjuna that because of this Kala or time factor, things come up, manifest, and immediately Bhutva Bhrutva Praliyate. Again they are manifest, again they are destroyed. So why to take things seriously? For example, say parents, they take their small son to the beach during the nice summer time, and so the son spends lot of time in building a nice sand castle. Now when this, say 2-3 hours have passed, it's time to go home, the parents will call, son, let's go back home. What do you think the son will do? He'll just dust off his hands and go with the parents. Now, would it be nice to see a son who is attached to a sand castle? No, it was some 2-3 hours you did some sand castle. But you know this will be anyway destroyed. Even a kid knows it. And the kid proceeds. Similarly, in this material world, the body will be destroyed also. I still remember when I was, small, younger, in my school going days, I would literally spend half an hour in the morning combing my hair. Why? Because there would be a particular strand, a set of hair which will not sit in the position I want it to be. And in this way, a materialistically minded person, they feel that which is ordinary to be extraordinary, and that which is extraordinary to be ordinary. Then, because I would spend so much time in combing my hair, then when the time to do puja before going to school came, I would quickly wind up. Isn't it? This is materialistically minded person. Yanisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagati samyami tasyam jagati bhutani sanisha pashyato mune. That means the materialistically minded people and spiritually minded people, they are diametrically opposite. They cannot be on the same page. It's very difficult. What the materialistic mind person does, the spiritualist does the opposite. And what the spiritualist does, materialistic minded people do opposite. So in this way, a materialistically minded people, he wastes so much. When he goes to bathroom, he wastes 45 minutes. He sits in the shower, puts in the jacuzzi, they fill up the tub, they sleep for some time. Nicely, they take care of the body, they polish the body. Whereas a spiritualist, he's on a mission. A spiritualist cannot waste his time simply lying around in the jacuzzi. He wants to get out and serve Prabhupada. Similarly, sometimes even as devotees, one can sit for prasadam and spend hours just doing prajalpa. That also is not very nice, because a man on mission, he doesn't waste time in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. He keeps it to a bare minimum, so much so minimum that people like Raghunath Das Goswami, he was just eating, drinking few drops of buttermilk once in 3 days, because they are men on mission. They want to serve Guru and Gauranga. So therefore, we can understand how much we value time as Krishna or Krishna's energy, to the degree uh, when we see how much we actually utilize the time in Krishna's service. Therefore, one of the Vaishnava qualities of a Vaishnava is Avyartha Kalatvam. Avyartha Kalatvam means they do not waste time unnecessarily at all. Every moment is used for Krishna service. Why? Because it takes only a moment for Maya to come in. As soon as we become casual for moments, we become, instead of being moment conscious, we are minute conscious. But then in the seconds, Maya will come. If we are only hour conscious, 1 hour for Krishna, next hour for Maya, in that time, Maya has big room to come into our life. Isn't it? So therefore, Krishna consciousness is not an yearly affair, as some people only come for Janmashtami. It is not monthly affair that some people only come for monthly youth festival. It's not a weekly affair that people only come for weekly program. It's not even a daily affair that you just chant in the morning and do all the other activities in the daytime. It is actually moment to moment affair, Krishna consciousness. And depending on how we have utilized every moment, you will see the same consciousness being reflected in the chanting the next day. Isn't it? So therefore, many senior devotees say that 2 hours of chanting is actually depends on the 22 hours how you have spent last 22 hours. If you were in Maya, it reflects in our chanting. So this is all the tricks of time. The time actually manifests successes, it manifests failures, it manifests people who are troublesome to us in our environment. It manifests people who are very friendly. So we should not get distracted by anything when we're practicing spiritual life. This is all coming by the time factor. Why time factor? We say, some things, for some things to happen, we need the right time. The right time hasn't come yet. That means the will of the time is the will of the Lord. That's what Bhishma will say now. So here in purport, Prabhupada is saying even the great control of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. So from our side, what we were trying to discuss here is we should not spend too much time in controlling people or controlling things who are out of our control. Then we waste time. Like some people become very concerned on politics of US. We don't have to worry about it. How much of you are concerned, you are not going to make big difference. You go on High Nam Sankirtan, do book distribution. That's the biggest effect we can have on society. Unnecessarily worrying about controversial matters. A man mission on moon, isn't it? The moon mission, the Mars mission. We don't have to worry unnecessarily so much about it. Crime rate increasing in New York City. We don't have to worry so much. So we have to do our duty. If we worry about so many other things, then bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo avyavasainam. Then that one point attention will go away. Okay. Yatra dharma suto raja gadapanir vrikodaraha krishno strigandivam chapam surit krishna stato vipat. Yeah, can someone read? Fast.
Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time! It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of demigod controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with the club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas.
Yeah. So Bhishma calls it the influence of inevitable time as irreversible. That's when Chanakya says, Ayusha kshana ekopi nalabhya swarna koti bihi. You can give millions of dollars, but you cannot get that moment lost. What is gone for life and more. You can never get it back. And therefore, time becomes even more precious than money. Something what money cannot buy. The moment's lost. Now, in this purport, see what Sri Prabhupada writes. Yeah. Despite the power of pious acts, the power of personalities, the power of expert management, and the power of weapons, under direct supervision of Lord Krishna, Pandavas had everything. They had the best of fighters, best of managers, best of commanders, everyone. The Pandavas still suffered so many practical reverses, which can only be explained as influence of time. Influence of Kala, inevitable time. Kala is therefore identical with the Lord Himself, and therefore influence of Kala indicates the inexplicable wish of the Lord Himself. And therefore Prabhupada says, there is nothing to be lamented when a matter is beyond the control of any human being. So therefore, in this way, the devotees of the Supreme Lord, they are focused in the service to Krishna, Guru and Krishna. Why? Because they do not unnecessarily worry about those things which cannot be changed. Same thing Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. Gatasuna gatasunscha nanu shochanti pandita. He tells Arjuna, don't worry over something which is inevitable. Don't lament over something which is inevitable. Like death. Everyone has to undergo death. Everyone has to face death. Only difference is materialistic people die to die more, die again. Whereas the devotees die to live forever. That's the only difference, isn't it? So, dehinosmi nita dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namuyati. Therefore, for a devotee, a dhira purusha, that means a person who is stable in his spiritual life, for him, death has no meaning. For him, it's just changing clothes, changing bodies. It makes no difference. Whereas for materialistic minded people, death means a lot. Death means stripping away of everything they have worked hard for. That is death for materialistic person. For spiritualist, whatever they have worked for, everything is saved. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. And therefore, the devotees don't worry about death. So, we have to see in our life, where am I spending unnecessary time or lamenting over something which is inevitable. We try to control situations which are beyond our control, we will lament for that. We will unnecessarily worry about it. So therefore Prabhupada says, don't lament when something is beyond the control of any human being. That means try your best, but leave the rest to Krishna. What should we be concerned about? Have I tried my best? Have I done my part properly? That means, have I done my chanting properly? Am I trying to serve Guru properly? Am I trying to develop my Vaishnava etiquettes properly? I've done my part. Still there'll be miscommunication. Still there'll be misunderstanding, and still there'll be some clashes between devotees. Then don't worry, tolerate. And those things, later on it will be said, those things which anyway happen due to the inevitable time, by the will of providence, learn to tolerate. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shita ushna sukha dukkada agamapayano nityastam stitikshasva bharata. So if done your part, then learn to tolerate. That which cannot be cured has to be endured. Isn't it? So this is what we can actually learn from time. Time is always, it is eternal, it is Krishna, it is the effects of time which anyway come in our life. We can understand it to be inexplicable will of the Lord. So we have to learn to tolerate. And one more lesson we can learn is the art of letting go. In this material world, we want to hold on to things which we have worked hard for. Isn't it? Actually, you will find when you analyze situation of Draupadi, till the time Draupadi was holding on to her own honor, of course, natural. But till the time she was letting go, Krishna didn't appear. But as there's a saying, let go and let God. So for us, let go and let Govinda. So when she actually let go, she tried her best. It was not possible. Then letting go for a devotee means surrendering to Krishna. My dear Lord, now you take care. I have tried my best. At that point in time, Krishna manifests. For Draupadi, Krishna came as in unlimited amount of cloth. For Gajendra, Krishna came as, so Gajendra was also fighting. Any idea how long did he fight? 1,000 not human years, 1,000 celestial years. That means one day, celestial day, is ours 1 year. For 1,000 celestial years, Gajendra was fighting with the crocodile. He was not letting go of the situation. Sometimes we also, when we have some debate, sometimes book distributors, they meet some Christian missionary, and it's just back and forth, and hours are going by, and Harinam is going by. Such a waste of time. We have to learn to let go. And sometimes to let go, one has to cultivate humility. Isn't it? Something yesterday Ramray Prabhu was mentioning in the class that I don't remember exactly. He said, but the secret to advancement is Thinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtana Sadaharihi. So humility, by cultivating humility, we will learn to let go. So Gajendra fought for 1,000 celestial years, back and forth, so much commotion in the water. But the influence of time was constantly on his body. Just like a shadow follows a substance, influence of time was always there. That means the influence of time was killing his body every moment. As the influence of time was killing his body every moment, every minute, every hour and every year, 1,000 celestial years, Gajendra had become old. And being a land mammal, he had become even weaker in water. Now, is there any option other than letting go? No, now there's the option of let Govinda. Then he let go, but took shelter of the Supreme Lord. That is the time he took his trunk amidst the great battle. Took his trunk, used his trunk to pick up a lotus flower, and had full confidence the Supreme Lord will come. Actually, it is mentioned when he offered the lotus flower in the air, there were many demigods sitting in the sky. And they were thinking, okay, now if Gajendra tells me, if he calls me, I'm ready to jump and save Gajendra. And I'll become the hero of the entire pastime. So all the demigods were in the clouds waiting to jump. But Gajendra recited prayers addressing directly to the Supreme Lord Narayana. Narayana, Akila Guru, Bhagavan Namaste, like that he said. So all the demigods were confused. Hey, he didn't call my name. He called the Supreme Lord Narayana. But how much time will he take? Actually, before they blinked, the Supreme Lord Narayana was there on Garuda and having cut the neck of the crocodile. As soon as he offered, Supreme Lord was there. As soon as Draupadi raised her arms in helplessness, immediately Supreme Lord was there. Isn't it? So therefore, the situations brought about by the inevitable time factor, we cannot define them. We cannot make some sense out of it. It's very difficult to understand. Can anyone understand why Pandavas actually underwent so much misery? We understand now, in next yuga, when we discuss with Acharya commentary, you understand, yes, Supreme Lord wanted to glorify the Pandavas. But just put your feet in the shoes of Kunti Maharani. What is she seeing year after year, so much misery they underwent? Can they make any sense out of it? And later on, she's praying, Vipada Santuta Shashvat. Let these miseries come again and again. Just imagine the worst misery you have undergone in life. Is there such time where you were in the worst situation of your life? Just imagine, and now will you go to Shri Radha Govind and pray, let this happen once more? I would never do that. That means the Pandavas were actually pure devotees. So much so that they thought if misery is making me Krishna conscious, let it be. Then let it happen again and again. Isn't it? So therefore, that through the time factor, we can learn one lesson, the art of letting go, and other lesson is learning to tolerate that which cannot be cured. Once a king got a beautiful ring as a birthday gift, and amongst all the gifts, he said, "This ring is the best." Other ministers were confused. Why is this ring the best? And he said, because there's a message engraved. What was the message? This too shall pass. That means if one is becoming proud that something good is happening and he is getting a lot of glory, remember, this too shall pass. So don't get attached to name and fame. If someone is becoming depressed, thinking of the miserable situation he's currently in, no job, sometimes the grades are not proper, or even as brahmachari, I'm not getting enough appreciation. Don't worry, this too shall pass. And therefore, in Jadabharat section also you'll find when King Rahugana understood the glory of no, this is before that. When Rahugana chastised Jadabharata, saying that you are my servant, I am your master, immediately Jadabharata said, Jeevan mritatvam niyamena rajan adyantavan yad vikritasya drishtam swaswamya bhavo dhruva idiyatra taryachate sau vidikritya yogaha. That means he's saying Jeevan mritatvam niyamena rajan. In this one, whoever is born has to die. Adi antavad yad vikritasya drishtam. That means in this world, anything which is there, it has a beginning and an end. And between, transformation. So don't be attached. Today you are saying, you are the master, I am the servant. Tomorrow the situations and roles may change. You may become the servant and I may become master. How is Jarabhadra speaking so confidently? Because he had experience. When he was Jadabharata was son of a Brahmana. So son of a Brahmana means prestige. But then when his father expired, he was not treated properly. He was given burnt rice. Anything which is sticking to the vessel, he was given. But later on, again, he was fed nicely before his head was supposed to be cut by the dacoits. So like this, he saw the dualities. Happiness and distress he underwent. Once upon a time, the last life, he was King Bharata. And now he is carrying the palanquin of another king. Isn't it? So once he was king, now he became servant. Again, after speaking this, King Rahugana jumps off from palanquin and he says, you are the guru, you are supposed to sit on the palanquin. So again the roles changed. Isn't it? At one point in time, he was made a scarecrow and he was actually given dishonor. Now Rahugana later on is offering prayers to Jadabharata and he is being given honor. So again roles changed. So this is the effect of time where happiness can become distress and again happiness. So happiness, distress, or man, upman, dishonor, honor, honor, dishonor, honor is going on like this. So Jada Bharat had complete realization when he spoke to King Rahugana. He's saying, today you think you are the master, I am the servant, but roles can change. So don't be attached to the position. Just do your duty. Like that he says. Taruchate sau vidhikritta yogaha. Like that. So therefore the intelligent people, they don't bother themselves too much with the time factor. I mean the manifestations of the time factor. Because whatever is manifest by time factor has to be unmanifested by the time factor. So later on in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the second part of the purport. Prabhupada is talking about, therefore people who actually become little aware of the time factor, they want to perform pious activities. As devotees, we perform spiritual activities which are not touched by the time factor, and as the materialists who even perform pious activities to make their position better, that is also useless. Because some people, Prabhupada said in one lecture, some people think if I'm in India, if I go to the US, I'll be happy. But they don't know the karma also follows them, isn't it? So they think by earning a little more money, I can evade my karma. It's not possible. By staying in, by changing position, one cannot change one's karma. The suffering and happiness is already fixed for such a person. So there is no use of such changing of place or situation of people around them. The only thing, as we quoted, that yatasaiva hetu pratita kovido, the intelligent people only simply endeavor for that which is eternal, that which is not destroyed by time. So people attach to sense enjoyment and so aspire for life on heavenly planets. Yeah, but that is also useless because it is adi antavantha kante. It has beginning and end. Yeah. The influence of time is present everywhere within this material world, but in the spiritual world, however, there is the time factor has no influence. There is time factor, but doesn't control anything. Here, time factor controls everything. So we'll stop there. If anyone has, we have 1 minute. Anyone has any question or comment?
Haribo. Yeah, so I'm actually curious, when Draupadi and Gajendra pray to the Lord, are they asking him for help or are they just glorifying him? How do their prayers, what are they praying for?
Well, Gajendra was actually, when he actually understood this, the material world is a place of suffering. And actually, why he did not pray as a normal living entity. He was already very advanced because he was King Indudumna in the past life. He had performed pious spiritual activities and already his devotion was there. So that moment when he was losing the battle and he lost all hope in the material existence, then he understood the Lord of my life is Supreme Lord. Let me simply become his devotee. Of course, so therefore when we want to become devotees of Krishna, then Krishna protects. And therefore he offered flower. He did not just cry out. Similarly, Draupadi also, you will find, when she was being disrobed, that time she cries out, hey Dwarkavasin, hey Govinda. Like that. She is just crying out the names of Krishna. So, in one lecture, His Holiness Radha Maharaj was saying, actually Draupadi is a pure devotee. And when she cried out for protection to the Supreme Lord, it's not for her protection. She called out for the protection of the Supreme Lord so that in history it should not, be said that the Lord could not protect his devotee. Therefore she called out to the Supreme Lord. Ranat Maharaj was saying in one lecture. So because she is a pure devotee actually. So even if pure devotees call out for protection, they have something more deeper like this. Is that okay? Yeah, quality of prayer can improve. Similarly, how we, in our own practice of Krishna consciousness, how we actually deal with, how we practice Krishna consciousness. If we are practicing grudging devotional service, time is by nature, it can dilate and contract. So if we are not very enthusiastically participating in Krishna conscious activities, then for such a person the time becomes very dilated. He thinks, when will this thing get over? You know. But for people who are enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness, then for them they feel, time is too less. How many of you feel 24 hours is very less for Krishna consciousness in a day? Yeah, we should feel like that. 24 hours, just 24 hours. Why didn't Krishna give me 48 hours? And though it's 24 hours, for such a person, Krishna expands time. That means you can do your sadhana, you can do 2 hours of chanting Hare Krishna, you can go out for book distribution, you still have some time left. That's Krishna's inconceivable potency. And people who like to waste time, they will be given one full day, 24 hours, take it. Today you don't have to go for Harinam, you don't have to do anything. Because they will have no control on their mind. They will be cheated, and at the end of at 9 p.m. also, they have not read any Prabhupada book for the entire day. They just talked to devotees, they slept and they did this and that. Waste of time. So for them, the time actually reduced. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantha Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki,
Jai.
Śrila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.